I guess I could just start, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Right?
Yeah.
Good evening. As we gather tonight, we wish to acknowledge the Indigenous peoples of all the lands that we are on today. While we meet on this virtual platform, let us take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the land which we each call home here in Canada. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. From coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this nation home. We respect the treaties that were made on these territories, we acknowledge the harms and the mistakes of the past, and we dedicate ourselves to move forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. Hello. We welcome you tonight to our new home, at least for now, the Thunderbird Parkade at the University of British Columbia. We are the Vancouver Youth Choir. Well, this is half of the choir, and the rest of the choir is downstairs, and you will meet them later on Parkade Level 3. Tonight is meant to be a snapshot of here and now, 8 months into a global pandemic, who we are, how we are, and what it's like to be a choir in November 2020. First of all, a little bit about what we are doing logistically. We have divided the group into two fairly balanced, smaller groups, and they are working on different repertoire with different rehearsal times. We rehearse here, which is open on the walls and has a great air circulation. We are masked, as you can see. We do a temperature check and health questions at each rehearsal. They stand in numbered hula hoops. It has been a very hard adjustment. It's cold. It feels like you're singing all by yourself, and community-wise, it's really hard to connect like we usually do so easily. But we are getting used to it, changing small things each time, finding ways to make things feel more normal, and most importantly, we know how incredibly lucky we are just to be able to do this at all, unlike many choirs across the country who are limited to strictly online singing. So, since September, we have had 4 rehearsals of 1 hour each, and tonight you will hear where we're at. With the goal of creating this time capsule event, trying to document a specific moment in time, our singers submitted thoughts in writing and mostly anonymously in response to a series of writing prompts. When I sat down to go through the many responses, there was a clear theme that ran through them all. Basically, good grief, are we ever lucky? And, good grief, is this ever hard? Most responses had elements of both of these thoughts. They talked about how privileged we are to live here, to have what so many of us have, and at the same time, that this is hard and that they are struggling. I've been worried that maybe some of what we share tonight will be a downer or feel negative. But I've purposely chosen not to edit or try to make things more palatable or upbeat. I think it's okay to talk about what's hard, because there's lots that is hard right now. And you can feel lucky and sad at the same time. I encourage you to sit with us in this discomfort and this struggle, and there will be beauty, I promise. I want to mention that most speakers are not reading their own words, but words of other members in the choir. Some of them will acknowledge this, others will just let it speak for itself. I also want to mention a few things. We have had 4 rehearsals in a time of great change and many adjustments. This is a very vulnerable thing that we are trying to do. Expect imperfection and embrace it along with us. There might be situations where you can't quite understand the speaker. I'm sorry about that. As well, with masks, it's very hard to understand the lyrics, and we will try and share about the lyrics as much as possible. There will likely be a car that drives by. I will probably talk too fast. I always talk too fast. And there might be some awkward transitions. But I hope you will laugh along with us and know that we are sharing with honesty and from our hearts. This first piece is a VYC favorite, an arrangement of Auld Lang Syne set to what I'm told is the original melody of the song. It speaks to the value of friendship. Okay, now that we're doing this, I realize how weird it is to have no applause at the end. Clap, 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 clap. This next speaker, or speakers, I just wanted to give you an introduction. We're going to hear three groups of these kinds of speakers. An exercise we did a couple of weeks ago is they had 3 pieces of paper, and on one piece of paper, they were asked to write an adjective or some adjectives, some descriptive words or a phrase describing how they are doing right now, to describe where they're at right now. They wrote the word now on the back, and on the front they wrote adjectives. And so we've put that list together, and we're just going to share it with you. This is Shay and Avora. They're 2 of our youngest singers, brand new this year. Welcome, Shay and Avora.
Overall, I'm doing okay, considering.
It has been a blur.
Right now, I'm taking it one day at a time.
Anxious.
Feeling anxious.
Constantly adjusting to new circumstances.
Like learning to walk on quicksand.
I feel isolated.
Alone.
Worried.
But hanging on.
I'm at peace.
Peaceful.
Grounded.
Optimistic. Open. Moving forward.
Hopeful and healing. I'm grateful for what I have.
Determined.
I choose to be grateful and patient.
I feel safe and lucky.
I can't seem to keep up.
I can't seem to catch up.
I'm lonely, stressed,
Stressed.
stressed, tired,
Tired.
unmotivated.
Having trouble getting motivated. Lonely.
Lonely.
I feel lonely.
I'm lonely.
I am lonely.
Lonely.
I feel lonely.
I'm trying not to feel sorry for myself.
I'm trying not to think about what we're all missing.
I don't want to sound ungrateful, but I'm sad.
Is that okay?
even though the pandemic has been extremely isolating, especially at the beginning of quarantine. It has given me the time and space to really reflect and process everything else going on in the world. I feel I wouldn't have given as much time or thought to societal issues, such as the systemic racism towards Black and Indigenous people of color. The time in quarantine gave me the space to not just react based off initial emotions and deflect blame, but to find the spaces where I have privilege and what I can do to open up those spaces for people who deserve it just as much as I do, if not more so.
So part of what we've been doing this year is a hybrid of this in-person rehearsal combined with online Zoom workshops as part of the Bridge Collective. And if you haven't heard of the Bridge Collective, it's a collective of 7 choirs from across Canada, youth choirs, and together we've combined forces to bring in artists that we're really excited about, cost share, connect with one another, and we've learned a ton already with some incredible people. One of whom is Tsleil-Waututh. This next piece is by Cheryl. Cheryl is of Cree Dene ancestry from the Little Red River Cree Nation in northern Alberta. She is a songwriter, a composer, a Juno-nominated professional singer, a music therapist, and an educator. We were so lucky to work with her as part of the Bridge Collective, where she shared her knowledge and gifts with us. Cheryl is an incredible workshop leader and educator, so conductors and teachers, if you're looking for someone to work with, I totally recommend trying to book her if she's available. We will put her website in our video info. This next song is an original work by Cheryl, and one of the ones we learned in our workshop. It's Woodland Cree, and the translation is, "Listen to the land. It teaches us many things. We must take care of it together."
I feel different. I feel like I could have a conversation with the version of myself that was leaving student housing in early April. She would probably be confused as to where I'm coming from. A lot has happened since then, in the world, and for me personally. I know myself better than I did then. I suppose spending a whole summer trapped with yourself will do that. But mostly, I'm more grateful for every single person and thing in my life that I love. Every possible thing I took for granted was tested and threatened to be removed from me permanently. Consequently, I feel I have never loved so fully. I am now consciously trying to be constantly grateful for the good I have, and seeing a loved friend or family member now makes my heart feel like it's about to explode. It was a really tough summer, but I've gained perspective. I will never again be ashamed to tell somebody how much I care about them.
If there is anything that COVID-19 has taught me, it's the value of the in-betweens. Those raw and organic moments that happen when you see a friend on your way to class, or you're talking to your neighbor before your professor starts lecture. They may not be the scheduled parts of our days, but they are the parts that keep us real. COVID has led us into a culture lacking in in-betweens. It is with this that I have realized the value of creating those moments, even if they may not occur naturally. Striking up a conversation with the grocery store cashier, saying hi to your neighbor from over the fence, smiling with your eyes when the people on the street can't see your smile. Our community is in need of these in-betweens more than ever. Be mindful of the in-betweens you contribute to the people around you. You never know the impact they may hold.
We have one more song with what we call early choir, and it's Patrick Watson tune called The Great Escape. And I'm the kind of person that when I have a song in my head, the lyrics are always, when it's stuck in my head, the lyrics are always applicable to some aspect of my life. And this song was in my head consistently on and off all summer, especially the text. It says, "Don't be afraid, just eat up all the gray and it will fade away. Don't let yourself fall down." And one thing that we've learned about masks is that the eyes are not the window to the soul when you are more than 6 feet away from a person. It is really hard for us to be as expressive as we normally are when we're wearing a mask. So what we're working on is being really physical with our bodies, but it is hard for us to get the text across in the way that we want to. So I want to share a couple more spots. He's looking for a great escape. He says, gets in his car and drives away far from all the things that we are. Puts on a smile and breathes in and breathes it out. He says bye-bye to all the noise, which I think speaks really clearly to how many of us have felt at some point over the last 8 months. This is The Great Escape. Well, that concludes the first half. We're going to go downstairs to hear our late choir. Thanks for being with us. Stay with us. Everybody say bye. Thank you. All right. Sit tight. Here we go. Hey guys, I'm going to tell some jokes while we're going. Still going.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a conductor? I'm telling a joke. What's the difference between a conductor and God? God doesn't think he's a conductor.
Can I tell a conductor joke?
Yeah.
I got one. How many conductors does it take to change a light bulb?
How many?
Nobody knows because no one's ever looking at them.
What's the difference between a large pizza and a musician?
I don't know, what's the difference?
A large pizza can feed a family of 4. Okay, go. This is the staircase. What do you call a pepper who won't leave you alone? Jalapeno business. Okay, last one. Another time. They're just playing some stuff in. Why wouldn't the prawn share his cookie? Why? Because he was a little shellfish. You good?
I think so.
Are you good? Do you want to change batteries?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, we're gonna pause.
Yeah.
Hey, good? All right. Well, welcome to Late Choir. This is the choir that rehearses later. And both groups are doing so well. I can't wait for you to hear this one. I'm going to turn it over to Kayla, who's going to share another reading with us.
These are not my words. Recently, I've been hearing a lot about how hard anti-racist work is. People, especially white people, are worried about saying the wrong thing or doing something hurtful, and so sometimes they think it's safer to do nothing at all. I'm really trying to move away from that mindset. Anti-racist work is not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be challenging, force you to do research and educate yourself, force you to look inside yourself and really dig out those hidden biases that we all have. I know I still have a long way to go in terms of being a good ally and a supportive activist for our BIPOC peers, but I also know that I have done more active anti-racist work in the past 7 months than in my whole life.
These are not my words. It is easy to forget, or to not even have known, the full extent of Canadian history and our own government's theft of the culture, the land, the people, the well-being, and the songs of Indigenous peoples. I did not understand, to the full extent, what our country's past entailed for Indigenous peoples, even after graduating from high school. To learn, we must listen. We must step back to allow other voices forward and then work to empower and amplify them. I did not come to know this by myself, and none of us would. I came to know this through it being explained to me. I was taught about my privilege and how to recognize it. I believe that adding my privileged voice to to the calls for justice is the least that I can do.
So in the last half, I explained that we did an exercise where there was 3 pieces of paper and they responded to 3 different word prompts. The last one was now, where are you at now? This one was worries. What do you carry with yourself right now? What is weighing on you? What is burdening you? What is your worry? And we have four singers sharing. Brody, Jamie, Merowette, and Megan.
I'm worried about losing touch with friends and school.
Jamie, I'm just gonna get sorry. I meant to mention that these are not their words. These are the words of everybody amalgamated into one document.
I am worried about losing touch with friends and school. I worry I won't be able to keep up with online school. I'm worried about Trump. I'm worried about contracting COVID-19 and getting sick, or transmitting the virus to someone vulnerable like my grandparents. I'm terrified that I will spread COVID to someone I care about, or someone they care about. I'm scared I will get COVID-19. I worry about the health of my grandma. I worry about the health of my parents overseas. My grandma is 94. I'm worried she will get COVID and won't survive. I'm worried about getting COVID. I'm worried about getting sick from COVID. I'm worried about passing COVID to someone I love.
I'm really worried that the pandemic won't ever end. I know it's irrational, but still. How long will it be before things stabilize? What if this lasts for years? I'm worried about the climate crisis. No one cares. I'm worried about all the division in the world. What is going to happen? I'm worried that people will remain cautious and distant forever. I worry that people will forget about all the changes in thought that came from the recent BLM protest. I'm worried that Trump will get reelected.
I worry that my important relationships will fade because we're so distant. I'm worried that I'm not grateful enough for what I do have. I worry that the world won't ever return to normal. I'm worried that I'll never feel like myself again. I'm worried that this is what forever might look like. I'm worried that this is what my future will look like.
I don't understand online school and there is no one to ask for help. I miss my brother. I can't tell if people like me or hate me when we are on Zoom and not in person. I'm really scared about online exams. When will I get to hug my friends again? I'm losing my friends and I don't know how to make new ones in this online, virtual, distant time. I can't go to church. I'm worried about being spiritually idle. I don't have it in me right now to help the parts of my community that are hurting and in need. That worries me. I'm not learning anything in school. How will I find a job? There are no jobs. Are my friends okay? It is hard to remember how lucky I am.
Corey Payette is a playwright, actor, composer, and director of Northern Ontario Ojibwe heritage, based in Vancouver, British Columbia. His groundbreaking stage writings, such as the musicals Children of God and Les Filles du Roi, have explored heart-wrenching Indigenous experiences and brought important conversations to the community of stage acting. This next piece, Cold Isn't Permanent from Les Filles du Roi, is sung during the coming of winter, when one of the main characters, Jean-Baptiste, is making his way through the cold to pick up his sister from the hospital. He sings to himself to make it through the bitter cold. He and his sister, while returning, sing together to keep their spirits up. The vocables heard throughout the song represent the voices of family and ancestors, guiding the siblings home through the cold. They are a reminder of the warmth which will come at the end of this both literal and metaphorical winter and the dark times which they're facing.
I sleep alone in this corner, with no light, only darkness around me. The air is much colder. I am weak, what will happen to me? And though I don't have much heat, a raging fire at our feet, we sing way up to warm up our lips, singing way up to warm inside of me. We sing way up, cold isn't permanent, way up, welcoming signs of spring. our ancestors all right inside you, stubborn as father was, smart and kind just like our mother was. And though they may not be here, we will call to their ear. Sing way out to all Lord, singing way out to more inside me. We sing way out, cold as impermanent, way out, welcoming signs of spring. Here the air is much colder than I remember before. The winter is longer and the chill lingers on. I sing way out, don't worry, brother. Way out, this will move on. With this way out, I will feel better. Way out, remembering this winter's
It's our last reading, and it's one of our veteran singers, Safran's going to share our last writing prompt on that little piece of paper was the word joy. What has brought you joy during this time, these past 8 months? What has made you smile? What has lifted your spirits? Joy.
Dance classes, a 10 p.m. swim at the beach, Dungeons and Dragons, Dungeons and Dragons, VYC, VYC, choir, choir, singing, singing with others, music, music, hiking in the forest, family and friends, family and friends, family, family, friends, friends, family, family, being in nature. Cat memes, Schitt's Creek, the leaves changing colors, my girlfriend, belting in my dorm room, kittens, juggling. escaping into other worlds through books, drawing, video games, food, the VYC Discord, nature, my faith, VYC Discord, my boyfriend, video games, eating dinner with my family, video games, backyard brunches, playing with my dog. I got a cat. I have fallen in love. I knit a sweater, my very first one. I've been learning new languages. My sister moved home. My friends checked up on me, and that felt good. I've had time to reflect. I've gotten to spend more time with my dad. I've started to learn to play the piano. I like having my parents work from home. Is that strange? My brother is home. I love having dinner with my family every night. We had stopped doing that. I watch the sunset from my yard every day.
This is our last song we have to share. Before that, I want to say thanks to Dan, who does all our videography, Dan Lone, and he's behind the camera today. Darlene and Monica, our parent managers, who are so incredible and who together with Jen Milley made us all brand new singers masks. And Caitlin and Anya, our manager as well. This last song is by Elaine Hagenberg. It's called You Do Not Walk Alone. May you see God's light on the path ahead when the road you walk is dark. May you always hear, even in your hour of sorrow, the gentle singing of the lark. And when times are hard, may hardness never turn your heart to stone. May you always remember when the shadows fall that you do not walk alone.